welcome to this week's edition of the Sports Fix podcast. I'm here, Travis, with my friend Tyler. How you doing today, Tyler?
Doing fantastic.
Glad to hear. Well, it's 6 days removed from the Super Bowl, and for anyone that didn't watch it, and for those who even did watch it, lowest scoring Super Bowl of all time. Rather boring, unless you like defense a lot. Where the Patriots beat the Rams 13-3, which also happened to be the Rams' regular season record. Thought that was kind of funny. That was a game that I didn't particularly enjoy watching for a lot of reasons. What did you think of the game, Tyler?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely frustrating at times, just not to be able to see a whole lot of scoring. I guess it depends how you look at it sometimes. I mean, from a coaching standpoint, you're like, this is amazing. The Rams are keeping Tom Brady at bay. The Patriots are keeping that Rams offense, keeping them struggling and can hardly get first downs. But yeah, I mean, I think it's because it's nothing what everyone expected. You know, we expected, I think we went 20-something to 20-something, and then a lot of other people were calling 35 to 40, you know, and we come away with 13-3, and I don't know. It didn't meet expectations, and
Yeah, I really enjoyed it for the first half. I'll say the first half was really fun to watch because it's like, oh man, this battle of the defense is 3-0 at halftime. You know, we may never see another Super Bowl defensive battle like this. This is so cool. And then I was like, okay, they're going to go in the locker room at halftime. They're going to game plan. They're going to figure out the other opposing team's defense. And they're going to come out and they're going to score.
It's going to be completely different.
Completely different game in the second half. And it wasn't.
It was the same.
It was the same exact thing in the second half. I tell you what, in the third quarter, the Rams' offense kind of looked like they kind of found themselves a little bit. They had a drop touchdown pass in the end zone that Goff. I mean, it was an amazing play by the defender, but Goff threw it late, and so it allowed the defender to catch up with him. But there were some offensive moments. There were 13 points scored in the second half as compared to 3 in the first half. So there were more points in the second half, but it still wasn't even. I was texting my dad, and I was like, "Man, this is." This is really awesome to watch. Seeing the schemes and how these defenses can stop these prolific offenses, but we need some scoring. Like, it's so boring as far as scoring wise, and you can't have a whole game about defense, or else it does wear down on you in the third quarter. It's like, okay, where's the offense? So I definitely, in some ways, it was a really good Super Bowl. But in a lot of other ways, it wasn't very enjoyable for me, at least.
Yeah. And the commercials, they were okay. The halftime show, same kind of thing. We were hoping for better. Didn't turn out.
Did you see the YouTube video where Travis Scott fell off the stage? Oh, it was so funny. He was performing and he just walked off the stage. It was so funny. Wasn't a giant fan of the Maroon 5 halftime show. I kind of wish they'd go back to, honestly, like the 80s bands for halftime shows, but that's just me personally.
Yeah.
The commercials, I thought they were okay as a whole this year. They had some really good ones, though. I was a giant fan of the Amazon one with Alexa. There's things that Alexa can't do, and I'm trying to remember everything that happens. But the one that stands out to me is the dog ordering more. Harrison Ford's dog ordering more. Just keeps ordering dog food and ordering more dog food. I I thought that commercial was absolutely hysterical. I loved that commercial. What about you, Tyler? What was your favorite?
My favorites were probably the T-Mobile,
Oh yeah.
the text message ones. And then there's this one, I think it was for Mint something, where they're like drinking chunky milk.
I might have missed that one. What
I don't know.
happened?
They just like there's this family sitting down, and the mom pours milk into glasses, and it's so chunky, and they're just drinking it like it's not like just happy, like it's regular milk. I don't remember the point of it, but it stood out to me.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. So there was another one, the one with all the football players. As soon as the first half ended, where they were all in like the banquet room, and Roger Goodell's like giving a speech, and the football falls off the cake, and everyone it's just this mad scramble of all the football players. That was a good one, and they were doing all sorts of stuff. I like that one a lot. Tell you what, I don't support the product, but Bud Light always finds a way with their commercials. Not my favorite commercials that they've ever done this year, but the high fructose corn syrup. They go around taking it to different beer castles. I thought was a good one. I thought that one was pretty funny.
Yeah, the whole Dilly Dilly campaign's pretty funny.
The Dilly Dilly campaign and the Bud Knight. Bud Knight died, I think, actually. Got electrocuted. So, yeah, I mean, I really was hoping that we'd have more to talk about with this Super Bowl last week, but it just, don't feel there's much to talk about. You know, I guess the Rams technically had a chance down to the wire, but I mean, not really. Something that jumps off the page to me actually is the quarterback ratings for both quarterbacks. Tom Brady had a 25.8 quarterback rating, which is not good. And Jared Goff had a 13.4 quarterback rating, and I'm just looking at this and I'm like, oh my, like it just was so. I don't even think it was bad offense though. It was just great defense, and both defenses brought it. Probably been hearing that the offenses were going to score and really took that to heart. Is what I'm thinking might have happened.
Yeah.
But yeah, something else I was a little confused that the Rams were doing is they didn't use Todd Gurley very much when he was in the game. I mean, he did pretty decently. I don't think he played poorly when he was rushing the ball, but he got 10 carries. I mean, you can't have one of the best athletes on the field get 10 carries, and maybe. I mean, what you said a couple weeks ago, maybe he is a bit overrated. I don't know, but I don't know. I just was surprised that they didn't use him more. I mean, LA only ran the ball 18 times as compared to passing it 38 times. Dropped 38 dropbacks to 18 rushes. So that's also kind of has a problem. Defense can defend the pass pretty easily when they know you're going to pass. I don't know. I'm trying to find stuff to talk about the game, but there just wasn't. It wasn't that interesting for me.
Yeah.
I just saw this stat. Greg Zuerlein has a tackle. The kicker for the Rams. He had a tackle. I don't know when that tackle happened. Must have been on special teams. Tell you what, though, I think the Rams really had some missed opportunities in that game. I think the Rams had the opportunities to win the game. I'm not saying that they were the better team, but they had the opportunities there. They had the two drives where they got down close to the red zone. They had the two in-zone passes. One got intercepted and one got broken up. I mean, if you score those two touchdowns, you win the game. It's it's 14-13 final score, probably there at the end. So, really, I don't know. definitely not the Giants Patriots Super Bowls or the Eagles Patriots Super Bowl of last year.
Yeah.
Not very exciting game. So
Not even Seahawks Broncos.
oh, gosh,
Like, even that way, it's like a blowout, but at least it was interesting.
at least it was kind of fun to watch. um, so moving on from this year's Super Bowl, and let's put that in our past memories and hopefully forget it before next season. Forget this Super Bowl even happened. Moving on. So this week we'd like to present something new. Kind of replacing tough questions this week. We're gonna be giving out our awards for the whole NFL season, regular season, playoffs, Super Bowl, all that stuff. And we're gonna talk about. We have 7 awards and 5 awards for this season, and then 2 predictions for next season. And so we're going to start off with MVP, most valuable player. Tyler, who do you have as your MVP, NFL MVP this season?
For this last season.
Yeah, this past season, yeah.
I gotta go with Patrick Mahomes. I mean, I don't think there's even an explanation needed. It's just, the dude's crazy.
No, he is absolutely insane. The Chiefs were a completely different team with him at the helm this year, with basically the same team as last year. They didn't really have that much. And Kareem Hunt went out partway through the season, and that the team didn't miss a beat. I don't think they missed him at all.
I mean, the dude threw 50 touchdown passes in his second year. And, yeah, like you said, completely changed a team and got him close to the Super Bowl.
Mm-hmm. Arguably should have been in it. We don't know if it. I saw all people tweeting during that game if we should have seen a Chiefs Saints game.
Yeah.
But it's in the past. But with all those championship games going awry, I think Pat Mahomes is a good choice. He won the NFL MVP this season. I'm actually gonna go low key. This guy. So this is not. No one in the world would have picked this as the MVP, but I'm actually gonna go with this guy because if you looked how this team performed before he got the starting job and how this team performed after he got the starting job, they weren't the best team in the NFL. He wasn't putting up insane statistical numbers or anything like that, but the way that team worked with him at the helm was a completely new and different team than we saw the first half of the season. And I'm going to give it to Lamar Jackson.
Huh.
I think Pat Mahomes is probably what he well deserves the NFL MVP that he won this year. Absolutely does. But my reasoning is the Chiefs did really well without Pat Mahomes last year. They had Alex Smith, and they did pretty solid. They lost the Titans in the divisional round or the wild card. I don't remember which one it was. I think it might have been the wild card actually. But they still had a pretty solid year, and they have a solid team around them, or around Pat Mahomes for him to succeed. I mean, Tyreek Hill and Sammy Watkins, Eric Berry on the defensive side. There's a lot of components there. Lamar Jackson, though, I think completely changed how the Ravens played offense. They ran the ball I think 70% of the time, and it worked for them. They did really well. I think the Ravens will have something going there next year. I think they can definitely challenge for the AFC North with the Steelers declining. Ben Roethlisberger's probably got a year left in him, maybe.
Yeah.
So really, really interested to see what happens, but with them. But I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson for kind of a out of nowhere pick for MVP. And for all you listeners out there, if you guys have any disagreements with us or have your own ideas for these awards, feel free to comment down below what you think the award winners should be. Anything else with the MVP talk? I think. Do you disagree with my Lamar Jackson?
No, if you want to jump to the dark horse prediction, I actually have the Ravens.
Ooh.
As my team that's going to surprise us next year. I see them going to the playoffs. I see them getting past the wild card if they have to go to the wild card, but I see them as a divisional round at least.
Yeah, I can see that.
And a lot of it has to do with Lamar Jackson, and that's assuming, they actually start him and put full confidence in him.
Yeah, Joe Flacco's not their quarterback, I don't think. I think you can get decent trade value out of him. I think you get rid of him this offseason. I think you can get enough back from him to justify the trade. There's too many teams in the NFL that are desperate for a quarterback who can do something. And I mean...
And how much is he getting paid?
Oh, it's not even funny. I
remember his contract was insane at one point. It was like after they made it to the Super Bowl, that's where the whole Joe Flacco elite thing came from.
Yeah, this past year, this upcoming year, he has a base salary of $18.5 million.
You gotta trade him.
This guy didn't play half your games for you, and even if he had, his backup did better than he would have. It's you have to trade him. There is a team out there that's desperate enough to sign a quarterback. I mean, Brock Osweiler got signed to a $70 million deal by the Texans. Like people will pay. It's stupid, and it's only increasing. In the way his contract is structured, he'll be getting paid over $20 million, and he's 34. He's 34 years old. In 2021 he $24.25 million. You're absolutely right, Tyler. You have to trade him. You got to cut him. You got to do something to. I think trading, because if you cut him this year, you get a. I think you get a cap penalty, but yeah, you definitely have to cut him for sure, or trade him.
He's a $20 million paperweight on the bench there.
That's exactly what it is. Someone will pick him up. I don't know who, but I'm sure that there's an NFL team out there that would pay for a halfway decent quarterback.
The Bills will take him.
The Bills, the Broncos, the Raiders. See, John Gruden was willing to take a look at Nathan Peterman. Can I just tell you how insane that is?
I can't stand John Gruden. Honestly.
No, he's gonna ruin the Raiders again.
Again, yeah, he already has.
I think that.
That almost doesn't surprise me.
I heard that and I was like, I think there's a statistic out that Nathan Peterman is more likely, or what was the statistic? It was something crazy. Like, he was more likely to throw an interception than, or oh gosh, what was it? I'm trying to remember what the statistic was. It was like Nathan Peterman is more likely to throw an interception than Tom Brady is to win a playoff game, or something like that. Like, I mean, Tom Brady wins a lot of playoff games, and it's just, I heard that stat and I was like, wow, this guy, quite the record holder in the NFL, that's for sure. My dark horse actually also comes out of the AFC North. I really like what the Browns put on the field this past season. The Cleveland Browns. I do like, if Lamar Jackson can improve from year 1 to year 2, like a lot of rookie quarterbacks can do, I think the Ravens definitely have that dark horse Super Bowl potential. I'm gonna go with the Browns simply because they've had so many number 1 draft picks by now that they, number 1, have just enough talent on the team to actually do good. but
they have a lot of talent.
Yeah, they have a lot of talent. And Hugh Jackson got fired, and that team just kind of flipped the light switch. And they have really figured things out. The defense is really good. I think they need some weapons at receiver, they need weapons at receiver. I think they have a good running back rotation with Nick Chubb and now I can't think of his name. Is it Crowell or who's the Browns running backs?
I can't remember. Hillard.
Is it? I'm thinking of Duke Johnson, but
okay, yeah.
So they probably need to pick up another running back, but I think Nick Chubb can be a feature back for them. So they probably need a reliever to come in for him, but I think they get some of those skill positions filled in, and that could be a team that could win the AFC North next year. Going from a team that had won, what was it, 2 games in 3 years or something like that, or 3 games in 3 years, to possibly winning a divisional championship. So both of our dark horses coming out of the AFC North. I think that's going to be a really interesting division next year, because I'm curious to see what the Steelers do, especially with Antonio Brown trade talks, and Le'Veon Bell's probably not going to be there. I mean, he wasn't there last year, and they did fine. Ben Roethlisberger's getting old, so this could be the end of the Killer Bees, as they called it.
I feel like I've said that about Ben Roethlisberger for the last few years. Like, I don't know, this might be he's getting old, and he still somehow pulls it off. The Steelers always surprise me every year, because I always think they're gonna have a losing season, and then they do okay. But maybe this finally is a time. They certainly need to start building an in-house backup quarterback, and start looking for the future, because that whole team's getting old, and I don't know what the status is with Le'Veon Bell. But,
yeah, I don't.
And even Antonio Brown has got some drama back there, but I'm worried about that team for sure. And so that helps the Ravens and helps the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
All those teams that were always suppressed by the Steelers.
Yeah, I'm curious what the Bengals will do this next year without Marvin Lewis. I think Marvin Lewis has been a big problem for them. So I think that division could be wide open next year. I think you could potentially see 3 playoff teams out of that that division. For anyone who's interested, but Ben Roethlisberger is the starting quarterback. The backup is Josh Dobbs out of Tennessee. I think he's going into his 3rd year this next year.
Oh yeah, that's your guy.
Yeah, it's my guy.
I forgot about it.
And then Mason Rudolph out of Oklahoma State. He's a rookie this past season. He's going to go into his 2nd year. So they've got some decent talent to back up Roethlisberger. I don't think any of them, as of what I've seen on the field so far, can be a starting quarterback in the NFL. They can come in and when you get to the playoffs immediately. But I think that they have solid talent backing Roethlisberger up. I think if they want to invest in a quarterback, this might be the draft to do it. Maybe next year. Depends on how well. I don't know how well they're going to do next year, but if they think that this next year might be a rebuilding year, they might want to hold off on drafting a quarterback and wait to get maybe a lower draft pick or trade up. You never know what teams are going to do. So you've got the Ravens and I've got the Browns. So I think that'll be very interesting to watch this next season. All right, so most improved. So I kept this one kind of broad because I thought most improved could mean a lot of things. It could mean from like the beginning of the season to the end of the season. It could be a team or a player. It could be from last year to this year. There's a lot of different angles you can take that. And so Tyler, who do you have as most improved?
Yeah, I kind of interpreted it that way, as player or team, and so I went with the whole Cleveland Browns again. I mean,
it's hard not to improve when you're that team.
When you like you said, won a couple games in a couple seasons, combined. Like, they went from that to, I think, 7-8-1, right? And yeah, I mean that's huge. You've got you got a new head coach. You got a new quarterback that you can have a lot of faith in, and gets the team fired up. A lot of people to kind of spotlight Baker Mayfield. Like, when he got drafted, everyone was like, well, there goes his career, there goes a waste of talent. And it was nice knowing him while he was relevant. And I think he put a huge chip on his own shoulder for that. And I think it's just like a personal project for him to turn the Browns around. And that dude plays really well. And I could see them just going up from here.
Yeah, I think that they made a huge improvement this past season. I mean, Baker Mayfield is maybe be their best quarterback that they've had since they restarted the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah.
I mean, they've had some good quarterbacks over the past few years, but they've just been such a crapshoot organization that they can't keep their good quarterbacks healthy. I mean, Tim Couch, like, I'm not okay. When I say this, that guy had a great college career.
Yeah.
And he could have been something, I think, in the NFL, but he just, I mean, that organization's been so bad that, I mean, they can't protect their quarterbacks. They can't keep them healthy. They can't give their quarterbacks any weapons to throw to. Excuse me. That I think he has potential to be the best quarterback since the reintroduction of the Cleveland Browns to the league back in '98, I think, or 2000 when that expansion happened.
Yeah.
For me, I went for a team. I actually am referring to from the start of this season to the end of this season, and I'm going to go with the New York Giants. That was a team at the beginning of the year that was pretty bad.
Sure.
They picked up Saquon Barkley in the draft. They've got Eli Manning, who's an aging fossil, and then Odell Beckham Jr. And that's kind of when you think of the Giants, you think of that, and you think of that whole Eli Apple drama and all that stuff too. But you look at that team, and they started off the season so poorly. And then by the end of the season, that was a team you didn't want to play. Saquon Barkley was coming into his own. I mean, that guy is going to be a feature back for them. I'm surprised that they. It would shock me at all if they went out and got a quarterback in this draft to kind of mentor Eli Manning, or Eli Manning could be a mentor for, and kind of do what they did with Alex Smith and Patrick Mahomes over in Kansas City, and see Eli on his way out and bring up this new guy. That could be a team with Barkley, with Beckham, and the defense actually has started to put things together. The offensive line is starting to figure things out. That could be another team that I could see maybe being a wild card team next year if they can figure things out, and if Eli doesn't throw 4 interceptions a game. So yeah, I'm gonna go with the Giants for my most improved team from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. Not saying that they were great by the end of the season, but they definitely were a team that you didn't want to have to play against. I felt like Saquon Barkley is, fun fact, the only running back to have 2,000 yards from scrimmage in his rookie season. Beat out Adrian Peterson. I know AP had some big numbers, but that was quite the rookie season for him.
Yeah, he should have won Rookie of the Year, in my opinion. I get that they gave the award to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, on top of his MVP, though, it kind of felt it's like spread it around, spread the love a little bit, show some credit to Saquon Barkley, because he accomplished something that a lot of running backs don't even come close to in their whole career, and he did it on his first go. So
yeah, yeah, they're a good team. They will be a good team, I think. All right, on to the next one. We have the most surprising decline, or basically the team that we thought was going to come into the year and have a great year, and just hasn't had a bad year for one reason or the other. I'll start this one. I went with the Carolina Panthers. That's a team that has a lot of talent with Cam Newton and Christian McCaffrey. And a defense that's, I mean, they're what, 3 years removed from a Super Bowl, and I mean, they've not lost a ton from that team. They're not completely gutted. I think Cam's got a lack of receivers and an offensive line that doesn't block for him super well. I mean, he got injured this year. That's why they were so bad. But I just was so surprised to see they start off the season 6-1, I think, or 6-2. A really good start to the year, and then I think they lost like all their games the rest of the year. I think they finished with like a 7-9 or a 6-10 record, which is crazy for me considering how much talent they have on that team. That was a big surprise for me.
You said Super Bowl prediction?
No, the most surprising decline.
Oh, right. I have to go with the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, that was a team that I know that's your team, but that was a team that actually had a lot of it didn't make sense to me why they didn't do well, because their defense is probably one of the best defenses they've had in a few years. Their offense has all the same weapons that they had before. And they have some great statistical games. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is he's still doing incredible things, and still they missed the playoffs again, and just don't quite look like the Packers that we've come to know. Why do you think that? Why do you think it? I mean, they obviously fired their coach. That probably had something to do with it. But
I think it's just the coaching staff, and I think a lot of it too is Aaron Rodgers and not having enough trust in the receivers around him. I think it's mostly offensive stuff like that.
Yeah, it was really sad to watch, because I thought that would be for sure an NFL playoff team. That's what surprised me so much about them. So something a runner-up that I thought about, I didn't include them because I still think the Panthers were a bigger disappointment for me. The Atlanta Falcons, they had a ton of injuries on defense, and their offense could score points, but that team didn't even show up this year. I felt like Calvin Ridley had that huge game in week 4, week 5, and Julio Jones had a couple big games, but as a team, that team just another NFC South team that we've got, Panthers and the Falcons kind of putting in this category, but they just didn't the Falcons just was another thing. They're 2 years removed from a Super Bowl appearance, or they should have beaten the Patriots. They were up 24-3, or was it 28-3? Or it's 28-3, wasn't it?
Oh, in the Super Bowl,
in the
yeah.
Super Bowl,
yeah.
How do you lose that game? Number one. Number two, I don't understand what happened to some of these teams this year. Moving on, so we have some kind of goofier awards also we want to hand out. Number one is our Joe Flacco Award. We mentioned him earlier in the show. Basically our Overrated Award, who we think is maybe gets too much hype for what they actually do, or people that So why we call it the Joe Flacco Award is, I mean, there's that conversation that Joe Flacco is an elite NFL quarterback, and is he? And I mean, he won a Super Bowl ring that makes you elite, right? Well, he hasn't really done anything else other than win a Super Bowl ring. So, it's...
and it was his... I mean, we don't have to get into it, but it was his defense.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
That totally carried him. It was his receivers that caught his lobs.
Mm-hmm. No, he's not an elite quarterback. But my award, actually, Tom Brady is my award.
Wow.
Tom Brady is my Joe Flacco award. Now, I'm not saying he's the equivalent of Joe Flacco, but he's going to get... I guarantee you, I mean, he's got so much credit for that Super Bowl win that they got. He gets so much credit for everything that they do. And I have said this for years, and I will continue to say this. Tom Brady is an overrated system quarterback. He's a good quarterback at what he does.
He's a great system quarterback.
Uh-huh.
He's the best quarterback.
He is the best system quarterback. I'm not trying to say that in a diss to Tom Brady, in a sense of like, that a system quarterback is not necessarily a negative thing. It's just that you work really well in a certain system, and I think Belichick's system, he looks at the talent that he has, and he does what's best for his team. Belichick, I think, is the greatest NFL head coach of all time. I think he, Lombardi definitely revolutionized the game and into what we know it today. But I think Belichick, with everything that he's done, is the best NFL coach of all time.
Yeah. I agree.
The reason I'd say Tom Brady's overrated, I don't know, maybe he would do different with a different coach on a different team. I don't know. We won't know that, I don't think. I think he'll retire a Patriot with Bill Belichick. But, in 10 years. The reason I say he's overrated is you look at every Patriots player to ever leave the Patriots organization and tell me what they've done anywhere else. The closest I've ever had anyone be able to tell me is Jacoby Brissett at the Colts last year. He had an okay season. He would throw for about 200 yards a game, 250 yards a game, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, solid performance, a quarterback that can win you some games. You can point out Jimmy Garoppolo, who went 6-0 2 seasons ago at the 49ers, and then got injured, and we don't know what's going to happen with him this season. I feel like this is more getting into a Patriots rant, which is what I was trying not to turn it into. But I think Tom Brady works incredibly well in Belichick's system. The thing is, with why people say he's the greatest quarterback of all time, I don't get, because I can make the dink and dunk passes that he makes. He throws 5 yards downfield to Julian Edelman, who gets... Tell you what, Julian Edelman might be the best route runner in the NFL. Watching him absolutely tear apart the Rams secondary by himself, he would... triple coverage would break out of these guys and be wide open for a catch.
Yeah.
This guy is incredible. This guy is insane. This guy would do amazing things that other... this is one of those exceptions, I think, to the rule where he would do amazing things on other teams.
I actually meant to bring up Julian Edelman before. That dude, if I got one thing out of watching the Super Bowl, it was realizing how amazing Julian Edelman is. I mean, that guy gets destroyed every play. The hits he takes, and then he just gets up and, like you said, runs these super sharp, deceptive routes and tremendous hands. That dude's definitely underrated, if we have an underrated player.
Well, you look at something, if you want to look at the Patriots go through receivers like it's nobody's business. They don't hold on to receivers for anything. They have a good receiver that they'll keep around for a couple of years and then they'll get rid of him. Edelman's been around for a long time with the Patriots. Mm-hmm. They haven't let him go, and I think he is too valuable to that team to let him go at this point in his career. I think the chemistry that him and Tom Brady have and that Belichick has with him, I think he may be the best offensive player on the Patriots Patriots team.
Yeah.
But yeah, back to the point.
Yeah.
I think Tom Brady is overrated because he, if you look at a majority of his passes, how many times in his career, he's got an arm, he's got accuracy, he's a good NFL quarterback. He can make those throws, that the downfield sideline throws that every quarterback in the NFL can make. What makes him so great? And people will say, well, look at how many rings he's won. And he's done a ton of rings, but it's not... Tom Brady doesn't win all those rings. That's Bill Belichick. That's his defense. That's the team around him. Tom Brady's definitely a big part of that. A quarterback always is. But I think in a Belichick system, you could insert any quarterback. I mean, I really think Jimmy Garoppolo was drafted by them to replace Tom Brady. I 100% think that would have happened. And the thing is as long as you can read a defense a little bit and say, okay, they've got these guys, they're man coverage. Guess what? I can tell you if it's man or zone coverage. Okay, it's man or zone. Okay, they've got 2 safeties deep, so it's a cover 2, which means that I can run my running back out on a curl 3 yards past the line of scrimmage, and there'll be no one around him, and I'll get an 8-yard completion. I can do that, and that's all Tom Brady does. Maybe this is just my dislike for Tom Brady going out, but I think he's overrated. I think he gets way more credit than he deserves for that Patriots dynasty. Mm-hmm. I'll end my rant now.
I'll just chime in on that real quick. I love Tom Brady, but you're right. Like, the problem is that he gets greatest of all time status because of his rings, and I see that more as, like you said, it's something that the dynasty shares, is the rings. And when you're talking about the single greatest player, I feel like that fits somebody more like Peyton Manning, who we saw was able to do great things on 2 different teams. And these were teams that, I mean, as soon as Peyton Manning left the Colts, they collapsed. And as soon as he joined the failing Broncos, they were Super Bowl champions. And that's more of like evidence to me that he's the greatest player because he kind of did it all himself and had so much influence to change a team around, rather than a quarterback who's always had a great system around him the whole time. But I don't know.
Well, you look back to like what you said. The Colts lost Peyton Manning. They were a 13-3, 14-2 team, perennial 13-3 team. Like every year, going to the divisional round. Sometimes we get Super Bowl, sometimes wouldn't. A lot of times they had problems with the Patriots those years.
Yeah.
He leaves that team. He gets his injury, and that team goes 2-14. I believe was that team's record. And
like
granted,
instantly.
Yeah, instantly. And it's well known the Colts had no defense when Peyton was there. That he had no defense there. Yeah. You had Bob Sanders is like the first name that comes to mind. Dwight Freeney. I think there were only defensive players that I remember from that entire era with the Colts. You look at the Patriots. Remember when Tom Brady went out for a season? He has season-ending injury like week 2. And so Matt Castle comes in at quarterback. That team goes 11-5.
Yeah.
I do think that Matt Castle is better than Curtis Painter, I think, was the backup, Peyton's backup in Indianapolis. But you see how that's a dynasty thing and not a Tom Brady thing. Sure, if Tom Brady was at the helm of that team, they probably won 13, 14 games.
Isn't that the record that the Patriots had this year? Was 11-5?
11-5, yeah. They had an 11-5 year this year. But my point is, and I'm not trying to make a statement that Peyton is the best quarterback of all time. I think you have probably not a super clear top 5, but you have a tier of quarterback that's on their own and no one else can touch them. And I think that's Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Dan Marino, Joe Montana. That type of quarterback is in a league of their own. I don't know if you can ever claim one as the greatest of all time. I think that they All of those quarterbacks belong in that conversation. I don't think we'll ever have a definitive who is the number one, the greatest quarterback of all time.
Yeah, it's overall, it's too hard of
Mm-hmm.
of something to pin on anybody.
All right, rant over. Tyler, who is your Joe Flacco award?
I got to go with Kirk Cousins of the Vikings.
Yeah, I like that one. That's
that
a good
dude got paid $84 million in his contract last year. And he's done nothing with it. They were 8-7-1.
Missed the playoffs.
I get the hype when he was with Washington. Like, he was doing all right, and honestly, being a Packers fan, when the Vikings picked him up, I was a little nervous, but I mean, talk about overrated this year. I mean, anybody could have done what he did, and he's getting paid a gross amount of money. Like,
well, and they're a year removed from a 14-2 season where Case Keenum took them to the NFC Championship, and they arguably should have, or was it? No, it wasn't the NFC Championship. It was the divisional round. They arguably should have won the divisional round. They, they have the whiff tackle that, or wait, no, hold on. Am I thinking of? I'm thinking of the Saints. I'm thinking the other way around. Saints whiff the tackle, but yeah. So Case Keenum took them to the NFC Championship game where they did get blown out by the Eagles. The Eagles definitely deserved to win and be in that Super Bowl last year.
Yeah.
But that was a good team, and I think a lot of it they fired their offensive coordinator. That offense got remarkably better this season. So I think next season we'll be able to see if he really truly is overrated. But this season, absolutely, he came in and was supposed to be like the guy who took the Vikings to the playoffs, to the Super Bowl and win it for him, and he definitely didn't do that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good. I didn't think of Kirk Cousins at all. Actually, I think that was actually a really good one. I think we're gonna agree on this one. Our Mark Sanchez award, basically, why in the world are you on the football field award? This guy started for the New York Jets for 3 years, and he had no business starting for them any of those years. I don't know how he did it. His agent is insane, but to be able to get him starting quarterback numbers and whatnot. But Tyler, who is your Mark Sanchez award winner?
It's the guy over there in Jacksonville, Blake Bortles.
Blake Bortles, yes, that's mine as well.
I no business playing quarterback.
I couldn't think of. I literally sat down. I probably thought for half an hour on this thing, and I could not think of another guy who even comes close to Blake Bortles. That Blake Bortles had nothing to do with them going to the AFC Championship game last year.
Yeah,
they had nothing to do with that. That was a great supporting cast and a fantastic defense.
They have an amazing team, especially on defense. But it's so sad. It's almost like a Joe Flacco situation where you've got a great supporting cast, but you've got this quarterback who's average at best, and Blake Bortles is in that same situation but below average.
Yeah, I mean, when Cody Kessler is the guy who comes in and they regard as maybe better than you, it's
time to look at your fallback career.
I know, right? The Jags have to go in a different direction with their quarterback. Hey, they'll pick up Joe Flacco. I mean, you do better than Blake Bortles, that's for sure.
I think the problem is, the dilemma with Blake Bortles is that he puts up these big numbers that are super just deceptive. If you look at his numbers, you're like, wow, this guy makes a lot of completions for big yards and whatnot. But it's like they're so overinflated that they mean nothing, because the dude he makes horrible decisions. Throws just as many picks as he does touchdowns. And even if you want to look at like the intangible stuff in the locker room, like nobody supports that guy. Nobody has confidence in him. It's just he's kind of a parasite on that team.
Yeah, it's the Jags need to go in a different direction. I'm a Titans fan, so I don't want them to go in a different direction. I'm totally fine with Blake Bortles as their quarterback, but for the Jaguars' sake, you got to move on from. You can't have Cody Kessler as your starting quarterback, and you can't have Blake Bortles. You got to find a guy in the draft this year. Yeah. You're in a pretty good position to pick up a guy in the draft. I think they have a top 5 draft pick. I could be wrong on that, but I think it's top 5.
Yeah, they could get someone.
And or you can make a trade for. You could do what the Broncos did and pull in a Case Keenum type player. He's not going to go win you a Super Bowl, but he'll stabilize your team and help you kind of get to that next level, so you can draft a quarterback.
Or maybe find a Nick Foles or something that'll just fit your system perfectly.
Mm-hmm, exactly. So yeah, poor Jacksonville Jaguars and Blake Bortles. But finally, our Super Bowl 54 prediction, our way too early Super Bowl 54 predictions.
Shot in the dark.
Yeah, we have no idea what these teams are going to look like next year and what offseason moves are going to be made. I'll start with mine. I'm going to go the Kansas City Chiefs. Yep. I think that Pat Mahomes is only going to get better, and I think the Patriots are only going to get worse from here on out. As far as I think their dynasties, they won the Super Bowl, but I think that it's one of those situations like the Broncos winning the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. It's kind of like their last ditch breath of air before they hit the ground. So I think the Chiefs are going to make it. And in the NFC, I actually don't know. I made a prediction, but there are so many teams in the NFC that can do it. If the Rams keep a lot of their roster from this year to next year, I don't know if they can do it. But if they can manage to keep a lot of them, I think they're shoo-ins. I think that they definitely should win the NFC next year. The Saints could be a really good team. I'm not going to go with them, though, because I think Drew Brees is getting up there in age. Yeah. And, he could have another NFL MVP caliber season, but he could also drop off the face of the earth. We don't know how that's going to go. I think you have the Vikings, you have the Eagles, you have a bunch of teams in that conversation that are just like a year removed from making a big run. I'm going to go with the Chicago Bears as the NFC representative next year. I really like some of the moves they made. I wasn't a big fan of how they did some things this season. I think that the coaching staff mishandled a few things. But they have a lot of talent on that team. I think they need to get another receiver for Mitchell Trubisky. But that defense is scary.
It is.
The defense is terrifying. The offense needs some help. I think Trubisky is the answer for them. I think he's a good quarterback for them. They don't have a solid, you're the guy running back. It's Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen splitting snaps. I think you need to get a solid, this is the guy running back. I think you need a go-to receiver for Mitchell Trubisky. I think that's all they need, though. I think once they get those things, they're a Super Bowl contender. I know you don't like to hear that as the Packers fan that you are. Big rivalry going there, but I'm going to go Chiefs Bears as a prediction. I'm not going to predict a winner because we have no idea what these teams are going to look like next year. But I think those are the two teams that will represent the AFC and the NFC next year.
Yeah, so I also have the Chiefs. I really don't think this is a one and done team. I don't think that Patrick Mahomes is gonna. A lot of people are saying people will just figure him out next year and he'll just decline. But I think this is the real deal. He does not look like Patrick Mahomes doesn't look like he's just It's not like some kind of Tebow magic um, or it's like there's no antics to it. He looks smart. He looks like he knows what he's doing. He's athletic. He can make any kind of pass or run he wants. And I trust Andy Reid to keep everything together. The NFC, I have to go with my boys, the Green Bay. on one side, just because I am biased, but on the other side too, it's just so hard to pick somebody in the NFC. I feel like right now, because I was thinking about it, and I mean it is so early, but I like for whatever reason, I don't know, but I like the Panthers for next year. I feel like they've kind of had their, not like a rebuilding season, but kind of like a heat check season where they've like realized some of their flaws, and I think they'll bounce back. I still like the Eagles, and I actually, I don't know why, but I feel like the Falcons could come back. There's too many picks, and so I'm just got to go with the Packers, even though I don't know. I don't know what this season will look for them, but
I think there's definitely an upside for the Packers. I think the NFC honestly is so wide open next year. I think you got so many teams in the above average to great tier,
yeah,
like in that range that you could. I mean, anyone out of that could make a run to the Super Bowl if they make the right moves this offseason and have a good coaching staff that will put the players in the right position to win games.
And you're totally right about the Bears too. They if they can be smart and make the right moves, they're definitely kind of a shoe-in.
Mm-hmm. It really is wide open next year. I have no idea who's going to win or who's going to make it as for out of the NFC. I think the AFC is a bit more clear cut. I think you have your top. You've got about 8 teams that you can consider upper echelon that are going to be fighting for the playoffs and the Super Bowl. And out of those 8 teams, there's probably only a few that really are going to be able to challenge for Super Bowl. I think the Patriots are always going to be in it, as long as Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are there.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are going to be fighting for it. I think the NFC North is wide open. I think it's going to cannibalize itself, and there's going to be a lot of teams that don't. Having a good division is good because of competition-wise, and giving you quality competition. But I think that it's just, but all those teams are going to look like average, above average next season. There's not one team's going to separate themselves as the best team. AFC South, I mean, you got the Texans that are solid. I think, once again, they need to figure out a couple things, but they could be a really good team. You got the Titans that need to figure some things out, but they could be a good team. And then the AFC West is it's the Chiefs, and yeah, maybe I think Philip Rivers is on his way out as well. I think this might have been his last chance at a Super Bowl this season. I think the Broncos could. If that's one of those teams that they had. I remember last offseason for them, they had so many things wrong with them that I was just like, if they had 2 like really good off seasons, they could be back in competition. But I think this past season was really detrimental to them as well. I think there's a lot of problems that they had, and they traded away Demaryius Thomas, or they cut him. I don't remember if they cut him or traded him. I think they cut him. They cut Demaryius Thomas. Emmanuel Sanders got hurt. That team's a ways to go as well. I think. No, watch me next year. The Raiders do a complete 180 and go 14-2, win the Super Bowl. Don't think it's gonna happen, but
no, not with John Gruden there.
No, but I think the AFC's, it's not as wide open as the NFC is. I agree with what you said on that. Well, it's been about an hour, so Good. Thanks for sticking with us if you're still here to the end of this, and be sure to let us know whatever if there's an award you think we missed that we could have done, or if there's a player or a team that you feel like deserves one of the awards that we didn't mention. Let us know in the comments, and we'll take a look at them during the next episode. But that's it for me and Tyler in the Sports Fix podcast, and we'll see you next week, everybody.